This is February content in the Miracles course. And for any of you, who've been with me before and wonder, where'd you go all that time? Well, I had cancer, had a little journey and adventure. If any of you want to know more about that, I actually wrote it up. I wrote about it on my website. It was how I spent my summer vacation. And it goes, some deep stuff about my journey and how, I got through it and how it also took me to some healing places. So feel free to check that out. And I'm just very happy to be back. I missed everybody. So the healing service does not get recorded. This does. People's sharing will be edited out if you do want to share. But for the time being, everybody mute yourself other than me. And this is my first time talking this long. So I've had kind of a dry throat cough from radiation. We'll see how I hold up. So far, I'm doing really well. I think that healing service really, helped me a lot. So anyway, we're here. We are in February, and the content of the Miracles course, you all know, I think it's a year-long course, and it really puts the content of the spiritual lessons into the framework of the four seasons, especially as I experienced the four seasons when I first created this course, which was when I lived in Minnesota. Right now I live in Florida. But in Minnesota, February is still pretty wintry. Not here so much as, starting to feel like spring. But, we are still in winter. And that, archetypally is the season of hibernation and introspection and energy turned inward. And of course, February isn't just the heart of winter. It's the whole season of hearts and flowers and commercialized romance. And whether we love Valentine's Day and go all warm and fuzzy inside, or find it kind of a hateful reminder of our less than perfect relationship status, for better or worse, there are a lot of minds focused on love this month. And, I see other people, not about, do we have a good marriage, spouse, partner, whatever. It's about seeing people as our greatest resource in life, no matter what it is we want, no matter what our goals are. It often does come down to attracting it, creating it through the help of other people. And now, while the candy heart overlay of Valentine's Day is certainly a cultural rather than a seasonal phenomenon, it really is kind of well suited for late winter. When you think of it, after all, in this weather, cold and still short days and kind of drives a lot of us indoors, we tend to find ourselves in close quarters with our fellow humans. And when our attention turns within, in our hibernating period, well, there we are with our own hearts. And love and relatedness bloom, or we become acutely aware of their lack. And so these times when collective attention is turned in a particular direction, it creates a kind of a wave-like energy, creates a whole morphic field with a bit of focused intention, we can take that wave and ride it high, as opposed to going just completely unconscious, where sometimes then it'll just catch us unaware and toss us around. So our work this month really is to take that whole candy heart version of love and raise it up a few rungs to really improve the quality of love and relationships in our lives, and to attract what we want in life through our connections with other people. So I want to talk tonight a little bit about the power of beliefs. Because in relationships, it's so easy to feel at the mercy of other people's behavior, and think, how often we felt, I mean, even so fleetingly, everything would be fine if just he, she, or they would just change. They would just change. Everything would be fine. And the more intimate the relationship, the more power it has to jerk our chain, whether it's our spouse, our parent, our child, our, closest friend. Yet what we get in life or don't get, be it the acknowledgement we're not getting at work, or the reciprocity we're not feeling with our friends, or the support we're missing in our marriage, it's all directly related to what we believe is coming to us, not necessarily what we want or hope or think should happen, but what we've learned probably at a really early age to expect. The way people treat us now reflects deep core beliefs about how deserving we are, what we believe is possible, how life works. It probably matches how we were treated as a child and how we saw adults treat each other when we were young. And for the most part, we operate from these beliefs unconsciously and automatically, making them, hard to recognize, let alone change. But they can be changed once we unearth what they are. And this, one of the really simple ways of doing that with some deep core beliefs is to take a look at what kind of relationship experiences we're currently attracting. The quality and nature of our interactions offers really excellent feedback regarding what we're calling to ourselves through our unconscious beliefs, our automatic behaviors, our emanations, what our muscle memory has just absorbed as reality and just transmits as its vibration into the world. So the following exercise is to help clarify some of the roots of repeating relationship patterns by working with some of these core beliefs. Now, you're going to need paper and pen for this. In fact, I always say have that handy for these classes, for pretty much anything you do with me, really. It's always good to be able to jot something down as it comes to you. So grab pen and paper and then just relax. And when you got your things, I see some people have gone to get stuff. I'll give a moment. Get your pen and paper there for you. And then just take a couple of deep breaths and maybe even close your eyes for just a moment and reflect on past and present relationship experiences, especially the most emotionally charged ones. Just see what comes to mind. And pay attention to any hurtful or repeating patterns you notice. And what you're going to write down is one or several simple sentences that describe any repeating relationship patterns that you don't want anymore. For example, I'm always the giver in my relationships, might be an example of that. Or romantic relationships start out great, but then I get suffocated. Or then I get abandoned, just for example. Those are just a couple of samples. Keep them short, to the point. Take just a moment with that. I'll give you a minute. And next, if you're writing too much, you might be getting too long with this. These are like real short. The first thing that comes to mind, not when you're in your evolved spiritual, I'm seeing it all from a higher place, but the little whiny like, what does that side of you say? The side of us that typically goes into always happen. You always, this always, even though we may understand that always is one of those words that it's probably not always true. Like, look at some of those that you've internalized. And assume that whatever experiences you've had reflects something about your belief system, your core beliefs. For example, if you tend to have loving, supportive relationships with women and disappointing relationships with men, it's not because of the way men are. It's because on some deep level, you believe that men are going to treat you differently than women. And, probably from how you were treated very, very early on. And subsequently, you attract people into your life who will reflect those beliefs. And when we project all the blame on other people, we typically go on to create, just similar experiences over and over again with new players. And a way to break this cycle is to use the bad experience to show you some kind of information about your core beliefs. So once you've uncovered what you believe, you can change it. And just making the shift from this just happens to me to this keeps happening because I expect it to, diffuses some of the power of previously unconscious beliefs. So look at what you've just written and assume these statements aren't just what you've experienced, they're what you believe, they're what you've internalized as reality, as truth. And a really simple way to start changing these beliefs is just to turn them into positive affirmations. Now, most people who attend a class like this have heard of affirmations. It's basically a statement of what we now want to become true, stated in the present tense as though it already is true. And writing and or repeating an affirmation over and over can just, help with that reprogramming process of our unconscious beliefs about reality. And, kind of in the same way we might reprogram a computer by feeding in different information. Now, affirmations aren't the end-all, be-all that they were made out to be by early New Thought teachers. At one time, all you have to do is write affirmations so you give yourself carpal tunnel syndrome and your life will be perfect. They're not all that, but they're a really handy tool that shouldn't be discounted either. See what my kitten is up to. I hear mischief afoot. Because really what shows up in our lives has a lot of connection to where we give attention. And as you give more time and attention to a new thought than you've previously given to limiting self-talk, that little voice in your head that's constantly reminding you why your relationships never work, that people always leave you, need too much, can't be trusted, etc., then you'll start to create new scenarios. Now we're going to explore affirmations in a little bit more depth in another class, and kind of work with them in, kind of a fun way. It's a little bit different. But for this exercise, what I'd like you to do is create an affirmation for each of your unwanted belief statements that counters it. And as much as possible, use similar language and style. If you have a short statement, don't give a whole paragraph long affirmation. Keep your affirmation short and sweet enough that you can actually remember to say it. Oh, and one way of working with affirmations is it's a really great way of stopping a repetitive thought. Like if you're really stuck in a mind track of resentment, say, and just resenting the heck out of someone or something and going on and on and on over and over in your mind, just feeding in an affirmation instead, like a little mantra, is a really good way of just freezing that, of stopping it, of redirecting. So just an example of what I mean of just countering your first statement. For example, I can't trust anyone to do as good a job as I do might turn into, there are now many competent, trustworthy people in my life who help me in many ways. Or say your first statement is, relationships start out great, but then I feel suffocated. Or then the person leaves. That might turn into, relationships start out great and then keep getting better and better. So that's what I mean. So take a moment with whatever you wrote and see if you can turn it around by creating a statement that counters it. Play with your affirmations to see if there are ways you've already built in some of your own limiting assumptions about life. See if you can stretch them out a little bit. And maybe some of our work as we continue will help you look at that too. And just over the next week, look at them every day. You know, if there's one or two that have a particular zing, there's a lot of things you can do with affirmations. You could consider writing them 15 times a day for a week. You could post them where you'll see them often, make them into your screensaver on your computer, and say them to yourself as you fall asleep at night. That makes a good, alternative to counting sheep, just saying your affirmation mantras. So, and definitely it's a good way to stop any kinds of limiting self-talk, as you notice it. So I want to just go in a little bit of a different direction now. The more intimate the relationship we're in, the more we plug into unconscious patterns of behavior. We fall into certain dances with our partners. You make a move, a familiar move, and then they react with an equally familiar move. And even if you don't like the dance, you just keep stepping into the same pattern, triggering the same response every time from your partner, and they trigger the same response from you. And some dances are very specific to individual relationships, but there's some of these, I call them dances that are common to a lot of us. And one that I'm going to talk about tonight is the abandonment or engulfment dance. And this particular dynamic tends to come up in a lot of intimate partner relationships. I'd say, most of them, and most of us have experienced one side of this or another, or both. And usually this means romantic partnerships, but not always. You can see it happen in all kinds of other significant relationships as well. And, a lot of us, if not all or most of us, tend to enact to one degree or another either a fear of being left or a fear of being swallowed up, losing ourselves, or both at different times. And those of us who are especially afraid of abandonment, we tend to hold a core belief that we're essentially incomplete as we are, that others have something we need in order to be happy. Like if you think of yourself as needy, for example, you probably fall a little more on that side of the spectrum. And in extreme cases, we just feel that our very survival depends on getting something from another person. And we then wind up putting a whole lot of energy into trying to get this from our partner. And we're typically the ones wanting more engagement in a relationship. Now, those of us on the other side of the spectrum who primarily act from a fear of engulfment hold more of a core belief that we're complete as we are, that we're self-contained, we're self-sufficient, and that becoming intimate with another means somehow losing some of what we have. And when we have this fear of being swallowed up, we tend to feel that others want more from us than we have to give, and we're typically the ones doing the backing off in a relationship. And now, while some of us may recognize a recurring pattern as being one or the other of these, often it's not so black or white. We might see ourselves insecure, needy, and wanting more from a disengaged partner in one relationship, and in another be the one who's perpetually stepping back and feeling overwhelmed, by our partner's expectations. And we might even go back and forth in the same relationship at different times, different phases. But what's important is to catch ourselves in the midst of this dance, wherever we are in it, because left unchecked, this pattern can have a downward spiraling effect, as one person steps forward with a desire for more involvement, the other partner steps back and the other partner feels abandoned and tries harder and harder to engage. And the second partner feels overwhelmed and drained by this and steps back further. And they, give up on the relationship altogether. Now, if you find this happening in any of your intimate relationships, the most effective way to stop the pattern is through really a combination of doing inner work to change not just the thought, not just the affirmation, like you can say something in your head and it can just stay up here, but really the feeling of the belief, and to also make some behavioral changes to break the automatic reactive ways of interacting that arise from that belief. So I'm going to go through two sets of steps. The first is for working with abandonment fears. Like if you feel like you're always the one wanting more or being left or feeling needy, the first set of steps are for you. And the second set of steps are for people who feel more on the engulfment side, feel more like you're the one who, can never quite meet your partner's expectations and are always backing off and needing space. So each set of instructions are going to be really different. So get ready. By the way, for those of you who haven't been here before, this live class has included a written set of lessons. So every one of these live classes has a whole written lesson that has what I'm presenting and often more. Tonight's lesson will definitely have more. And any of this that we've been talking about, you don't have to write it all down. You can see it in writing. I'll give you how to get to that when we're done. So this first set of steps will help you when you're finding yourself feeling insecure, when you're working harder in a relationship with a partner who's becoming increasingly disengaged. And step one, this is really important, create the inner experience of being loved. And this is beyond just changing your thought. It's really creating an inner feeling where you first bring to mind that empty place inside of you that feels like it can only be filled by someone else, and really begin to transform that emptiness. And a great way to do this, I think, is by cultivating an inner partner, where you imagine a spiritual being, some aspect of God or the divine, give it, a more personalized face, not that of someone you know in life. because humans are always imperfect. And we don't want to send a psychic broadcast to a real, actual human. This is about something that's more a spirit. I mean, if you have like a beloved relative, say, who represents unconditional love to you, that, that would be okay, that, bring their spirit back. But I think it's especially helpful, especially if you're working to attract a different romantic experience. Make this not a human person, but like a spiritual partner who can really embody the ideal of everything you need and want in a partner. So this being is able to know you absolutely. And, we humans, we're never capable of all this. We can have little glimpses of it. We aspire to this. So that's why I say make this a spiritual being, create it, make it up. Because God will wear all kinds of faces so long as we know that we're seeing something that's way beyond our small human self, that is unconditionally benevolent and kind and good and caring. So give it a face, give it, a beingness. And this is a being who's able to know you absolutely, to accept, appreciate, and respect you just as you are, who's able to love you unconditionally and offer support in all the ways you most need it and want it. And play in your imagination until you've created such a being, one who just feels like your perfect partner. Use all your senses to make this experience immediate and vivid so that you really begin to feel, in your gut, in your heart, in your, just relaxed body core, what it's like to be loved in just the way you want. Because if you don't have a body memory of that to call upon, what you're doing here is you're creating that body memory. It will really just be all through your body and will then transmit as a vibration out into the world, attracting an experience that matches it. And really hold the intention as you have this inner experience of being loved, that you're changing old patterns, that you're attracting to yourself now all that you've created within. And when we imagine it so vividly that it feels real, that's when we do start magnetizing the external experiences that match it. That may be from the partner who's in our life now. We kind of give them permission to be a different way with us. Or, we disappear that partner and attract somebody new who can give us this experience that we've now said yes to. It might be that if we're not in any kind of relationship, we attract somebody who exhibits this kind of behavior toward us. So that's step one, this inner work. It's very important. Step two is when you're feeling that kind of needy, clingy, like, I want more, I want more, I want more, with a partner, and your partner's like, focus on yourself instead of your partner. When you're just feeling driven to hold on tighter, to give more, to engage more, to work harder, or otherwise do something to get more attention from your partner, no matter how much you want to do it. Maybe, maybe some of your pattern is to somehow manufacture a crisis. That person just has to come help you. I'm a victim. Whatever your pattern is, and it seems very familiar to go into that again. Don't do it. Don't. Pull yourself back, even with all your instincts telling you to, reach out more. This is the time to do just the opposite, where you stop, you pull back from the relationship, and instead turn your full attention toward yourself. And however much energy you've been giving your partner, direct at least the same amount toward yourself. And it could be in small ways, like just spending time on the inner work I just described. Or it could be, doing things you love, taking time to take a walk and saying your affirmations to yourself while you walk, read a book, call a friend, go out, socially without your partner. Now, if you've been in a long-term pattern of letting another person be the primary focus of your attention, then stepping back and loving yourself more may need to take an equally significant form. Maybe taking on some kind of new program of self-love, physical or emotional healing, going back to school, joining a support group, or some other means of, just reinventing yourself. And not only does the stepping back serve you, it also helps your partner break out of the dance as well. Because as you step back, it gives the other person really space to remember their attraction to you, so they're not always overwhelmed with your desire to engage with you and their need to keep space. They remember, I don't know why I love that person. Doing this inner work of turning your attention away from the relationship while cultivating love within, it actually, sometimes works as just a really powerful love charm where suddenly you seem way more interesting and attractive to a previously, disengaged partner. And, if they're still disengaged and not interested, then they're just not for you, honey. They're just, they're just not for you. They're not the right person. And in this case, continue doing that work and it will make you magnetic to a more suitable partner. Now, it only works if you really turn your attention to your own happiness and wholeness. If you're just going through the motions of pretending to step back from the relationship while you're still obsessing night and day, on the other person, nothing's really changed. We're also connected psychically, that who we are, gets transmitted no matter how hard we try to disguise it. But the more we feel happy, whole, and in peace with ourselves, the more attractive we become. It's that simple. Now, so we're on to step 3, and that is balancing giving to your partner with giving to yourself. And whenever you find yourself measuring how much you've given to your partner compared to how much you've given, or they've given to you, rather, how much you've given out versus how much they've gotten back, and, you see yourself coming up short. Compare how much you've given out to another person versus how much you've given to yourself. And you'll probably still see yourself coming up short. And that's where to balance the scales. And take whatever action is necessary to give to yourself at least as much as you give out. Now, step 4, and this is a good one too. When you're not feeling empty or needy, after you've done all these other things, then practice giving in a new way. People with abandonment fears are often big givers, and they give their time and attention. They'll do more for their partner than they receive in kind. And they'll keep giving even to a partner who isn't reciprocating. And the more fearful they feel, the more they give. What often gets withheld, however, is the one gift their more disengaged partner would really, really appreciate. And that's the gift of acceptance and appreciation for how they are right now, as opposed to how they could be. The nature of the abandonment engulfment dance is that one person fears that what they give will never be enough, while the other person fears they'll never receive enough to feel full. And as you practice the previous steps of giving more to yourself and filling yourself up, and you're needing less from your partner, you'll be way better able to give to your partner in a way that truly supports them. And instead of asking for more from your partner or giving more in the hope that your partner will reciprocate, practice, acknowledge what you're already receiving. Give some gifts of appreciation and really authentically when you're feeling balanced and peaceful. Otherwise it's going to come across as feeling false. And let your partner know what they've done that you really do appreciate. Keep it simple. Less is more. When you're giving to a partner who might have some engulfment fears. And, hold back on the, I just adore you unconditionally with this sort of thought bubble thing going. You don't say out loud, I love you no matter how much you disappoint me. I still love you. It's not that. This is about looking at what they've really done. The small acts of kindness, even if they seem that big and you feel like you deserve that big because you give that big, even if they're like little itsy bitsy ones, just notice them as acts of kindness and say thank you. And most importantly, give your partner the gift of your own happiness. That bit of appreciation can go a long way because the more your partner feels accepted as they are, rather than nothing I do will ever be enough, the more they're going to want to give, believe it or not. Now, of course, if you find that there truly is nothing to appreciate about your partner the way they are, well, again, they're just not for you. They are not for you. This is not the relationship to preserve. And you've probably grown attached to the relationship you wish you had rather than the one you do have, and it's time to let go. So let's do the next side of this dance, the engulfment fear side. And this is the set of steps that's going to help you when you find yourself in a pattern of disengaging from a relationship or feeling that your partner wants more from you than you can give, or just feeling like there aren't people in the world who do it as well as you, who can take care of you. This set of instructions is for you. And step one, again, is to do the inner work, working with your core beliefs. But it's creating the inner experience of positive interdependence. It's by calling to, first start with that part of you that feels kind of emptied by other people. People with this belief tend to feel it's easier to be self-sufficient and often have difficulty even imagining that sustenance and support and assistance can come from others without there being strings or complications attached. So this is exactly what you need to imagine. Again, it's about creating deep core memories that maybe you've never had in life. Maybe you don't even believe are possible. That's all right. You don't have to believe it's possible. Just imagine what it would feel like to be able to receive something you really need and want from another person. And they're doing it as well as you would do it. Imagine yourself being surrounded by people as competent as you, people who can take care of you as well as you take care of yourself. Feel what it would be like to be with another person. And instead of the usual give and take, you feel this synergy in which both of you feel more complete and more empowered and have more of what you need and want by being together than you ever had separately. Now, this might feel like a stretch of imagination. You might need to work on it to just really, just like some of you, I suggested, stretch out your affirmation. I'm seeing you, focus on what you need to survive. Focus in on, yes, I want that. Yes, you do. What it would be like to really thrive in some way maybe you've never experienced or even imagined before. As you imagine it and feel it so vividly that you can feel it, not just think it, then you're really creating a different vibration that's going to attract different results. So step 2, get clear about your boundaries and your limits. Give some thought to what you're willing to give and what you're not. And I suggest doing this in writing when you have some time to yourself. Make a list of how you enjoy giving to your partner, as well as ways you don't mind giving. And then make another list of what you've given that you didn't really want to give. And if you're not in a relationship currently, just go back to past relationships. Look at patterns. Fred is being naughty. See Fred, my new kitten. It's being very naughty. Time to get down, Fred. You may have, some revelations by doing this in writing that, you really notice how many times you failed to say no to something that you really didn't want to do. So, that's step 2. Just really identify what your boundaries are. You may not have thought about them before. And the third step is to just communicate directly, because people on this side of the continuum will often tend to use disengagement. In other words, just stepping back, saying less, just kind of quietly, silently disappearing, shutting down, just being less present. We'll do that in the place of direct communication of this is how I'm feeling, this is what I need right now. So instead of this familiar indirect behavior, what's needed is communicating in words what space you need for yourself, what you don't want to do, what space you need for yourself. You can do it kindly. It doesn't have to be, a bitch fest. Do it nicely. Because as you become clear about your limits in this way, what's equally important and more of a stretch is also to clearly identify and communicate the limits to your limits. And let me explain what I mean by that. So in other words, instead of saying or silently enacting, it's not about saying, I need space, you're making me crazy, you're suffocating me. Instead of going there, it'd be more like, when I get home from work, I need an hour to myself to decompress, to just have my own time. And then I can come out of my own little room and be with you, or I'll just, be present. Or it might be, I need a day to myself, or I need to just take the weekend to myself and, just have just that time. I need to just, process, just go inside, just be by myself. But then I'll come back and be available to you after the weekend or after an hour or after a day. So that part is important too, claiming the space you need and then committing to coming back is very different from being neither fully present nor fully gone. And if you do it nicely, saying, this is just something I need, as opposed to, I need space. It's kind of like asking for it rather than taking it. And communicating when you'll be back helps to alleviate your partner's fears, so they are less likely to react with more intensive engulfing behavior or crying or, feeling like a victim or whatever. And, it can make it something, if by engaging your partner and this is just something I need, doing it nicely, kindly, it really makes it into something your partner may very willingly give to you. So you don't have to take it. And, on that engulfment side of the continuum, there is kind of an assumption that whatever I get in life, I have to take it for myself. And what you're needing to slowly learn is how to let other people and the world around you give you what you need and want. You don't have to take everything yourself. And And honoring your own boundaries this way makes it a lot easier to keep your commitment to come back and be available to your partner. And, even if it's for an hour, like, I am just so here for you. I'm totally present. This is you time. You put your phone down. You're just really there. You listen. You speak from your heart. And then, when you're on overload, you say, okay, I'm on tilt now. Just need a little bit of processing time for all this, but I'll be back. It makes when you do disengage and take time apart much less frightening to your partner. So they'll actually become less demanding. Of course, if they are always in the victim role no matter what, it may be that that's just been an easy pattern for you. And as you start to incorporate, integrate some of this, it may be that person just naturally leaves your life, is replaced by another person or people with whom you can be interdependent, not just the only one giving. Now here's step 4. At a time when your engulfment fears are not surfacing, when you're feeling balanced and peaceful, find something you're willing to ask for and receive from your partner, something other than space, not just space. And this needs to be something you'd actually like to receive, not just forcing yourself to submit to something your partner wants to give. Oh, here, honey, let me massage you and let me talk to you for, let's chat. Let me sit here while you, not what they want to give you necessarily, but what you would really like to receive, which for, this could be a challenging assignment. It means getting in touch with your wants and needs that may have gone completely unrecognized. And it's also a step out of the comfort zone to practice asking for what you want, as opposed to that more familiar practice of taking what you need. This is about thriving, not just surviving. Yet, learning to ask and receive and to enjoy the process is a crucial healing step. Now, a starting place for this might be simply asking your partner to be your ally in the healing process of, you learning to receive. You can kind of talk about what you're becoming aware of with your own patterns and just invite them to become your partner in helping you change some of that. If you're completely at a loss as to what you could ask your partner for, consider asking for feedback. Ask your partner to share with you what they appreciate about you and what things you've done in the relationship that mean a lot to them. What's really touched them. That might be a starting place. Sometimes just asking your partner, give me some feedback. How do you experience me as a receiver? They might, have all kinds of things they would like to give to you, but you have like the hand up, not maybe even unconsciously not allowing it in. So, ultimately, we all are working toward interdependence. That's the ultimate goal for people on either side of this dynamic. On the way there, however, we need to create a balance. Those of us with really strong abandonment fears might need to learn how to be independent first. Those fearing engulfment might need to let themselves be a little, not totally dependent in a victim-y way, but, a little bit dependent at times before that balance of interdependence is reached. And of course, not all relationships can or should be preserved. And these steps don't presume to be a solution to serious relationship problems or a substitute for relationship counseling, which I think is a really, really helpful thing for even the best of relationships. We'll talk more about that as we go along. I know Bill and I we have loved our therapy. We were in Imago therapy, which I think is great. It's called IMAGO, Imago therapy. And it's really where a therapist treats the relationship as the client, not just helping two people negotiate their needs and wants and making, concessions here and there, having bitch fests. It's a really different kind of dynamic. And we did it for 8 years, or we'd be doing it still, except our therapist retired. We need to find a new one. And sometimes, even if we were just doing it every 3 months, and sometimes all we do is show up and fill our therapist in on how great life is and how much we love each other. So it's just really nice to have that third person as a witness, to help you see yourself, help you see the relationship, just to witness it all. I really encourage it. So I'm thinking that's all we got time for tonight. There is some more in the written materials. And let me tell you about the way to find that. You go to my website, lynnwoodland.com. And on the homepage, that's where you can find, if you're curious, my whole summer vacation adventure. And through the whole month of February, we're going to be focusing on, relationships before the Miracles course, an hour earlier. If you want to log in, the same link, use the same link. I do a healing service. So anyone who's interested in that, please arrive early. If you want to just come for an intuitive reading, come at 7:30. I just do little mini readings for people. And do, at the end of the Miracles course, remember to donate to whatever center got you here. Okie doke. And until next week, I hope to see you all again. I love and bless you. May your week be wonderful and full of miracles. May you attract all kinds of miracles through the amazing humans around you. Till next time.
Thank you.
Namaste, everyone.
Thank you.